Alejandro sped through the city, his motorcycle slicing through the wind as if it were an extension of his own body. The day was sunny, but the sunlight couldn't dispel the shadow hanging over his heart. He was a delivery rider, a tireless worker facing the exhausting routine of deliveries and daily challenges, but behind that fast-paced life was a man struggling to support his children, Juana and Ricardo. The sound of the engine blended with the noise of the city, but in his mind, only the echo of their absence resonated. As he passed a busy street, Alejandro spotted an elderly woman struggling to change a flat tire on her car. The woman, Dona Maria, seemed lost, her trembling hands fighting against the resistance of the tire. He hesitated for a moment, the desire to help clashing with the reality that his own time was scarce. But when he looked at her face, he saw fragility and need. Without thinking twice, he stopped and approached. "Ma'am, can I help you?" he asked, his voice carrying a tone of cordiality he hadn't felt in a long time. She looked at him, surprised, but soon a smile lit up her wrinkled face. "Oh, young man, it would be a blessing. I don't know what I'd do without you." Alejandro knelt down and started working. As he changed the tire, they talked. Dona Maria shared stories from her youth, from a time when life seemed simpler and full of promise. "You're a good boy," she said, watching him with gratitude. "Many young people nowadays only think about themselves." He smiled, but inside a feeling of sadness grew. How could he be considered good when he felt like he was failing as a father? The image of Juana and Ricardo invaded his thoughts, and he remembered the times he couldn't be there for them, the unfulfilled promises, and the hugs that never happened. After a few minutes, the tire was changed. Dona Maria thanked him profusely. "You have no idea how much this means to me. If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to ask me." "It was nothing, ma'am. I'm glad I could help," Alejandro replied, trying to hide the emotion that was starting to well up. As he headed home, Dona Maria's grateful smile was still fresh in his mind. That small interaction had awakened something inside him, a desire for reconnection, a longing to be more than just a delivery rider lost in the hustle. He thought of his children, of how the days dragged on without him finding a way to bring them closer again. "Juana, Ricardo," he murmured, feeling a lump in his throat. "I need to change. I need to be the father you deserve." These thoughts accompanied him as he crossed the streets, passing houses and buildings that seemed so distant from his reality. He dreamed of seeing Juana and Ricardo smiling, of being able to hug them and say that everything would be okay. But how could he do that when his life felt like a maze with no way out? When he arrived home, silence enveloped him. He sat at the kitchen table, where memories of laughter and play were still ingrained in the walls. The sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the empty space around him. He looked at a photo of his children on the table and for a moment, imagined the future he could have. "I'm going to make this happen," he said out loud, as if the words could become reality. "I won't give up." It was then that, in the midst of his determination, he decided he needed to act. The kindness he had shown Dona Maria could be the first step toward the change he so desperately desired. He felt a small flame of hope ignite within him, and he knew that, no matter the challenges ahead, he was willing to fight for a new life, not just for himself, but especially for Juana and Ricardo. Alejandro woke up the next day with sunlight filtering through the curtains of his small apartment. The delivery routine awaited him, but something in the air felt different. He sat on the edge of the bed, rubbed his eyes, and remembered Dona Maria's smile, her gratitude when he helped her. A touch of hope began to bloom in his heart. As he got up, he noticed a box on the table, wrapped in colorful gift paper. Curious, he approached and opened it. Inside, he found a pair of leather gloves and a generous amount of money. Alejandro was stunned. "It can't be," he murmured to himself, running his hands over the gloves. They were so elegant, so different from what he was used to wearing. He remembered how his hands were always dirty and calloused from long hours on the motorcycle, battling the chaotic city traffic. And next to the gloves was a note. "For you, Alejandro. A small gift to help with your challenges. I hope you consider the proposal we discussed." He brought his hand to his head, trying to process the avalanche of emotions flooding him. The proposal. The invitation to work at Dona Maria's family business, Silicos Mediatas. The idea of leaving his current job to enter a world that seemed so far from his reality made him anxious. What if he failed? What if he wasn't up to the expectations? As he dressed, the tumultuous thoughts about the proposal mixed with memories of Juana and Ricardo. He longed so much to reconnect with them, but guilt consumed him. What would they think of his job as a delivery rider? And now this new possibility. His hands trembled slightly as he put on the gloves. He decided he needed to talk to Fernando, his longtime friend, who had always supported him. At the corner cafe, Alejandro found Fernando sitting at a table in the corner, looking at his phone. When he saw Alejandro, he smiled and waved. "Alejandro, how are you?" "Hey Fernando, we need to talk." "Something unexpected happened," Alejandro said as he sat at the table. Fernando, curious, raised an eyebrow. "What's up? You look paler than usual." Alejandro took a deep breath and began to tell him about Dona Maria, the car tire, and the help he had provided. When he mentioned the gloves and the money, Fernando's eyes lit up. "Wow, that's amazing. And the job offer? What are you going to do?" "I'm thinking. I'm not sure I'm capable. What if I'm not good enough?" Alejandro was visibly agitated. "You're more than good enough, Alejandro. You've always been. Think about everything you've overcome. This is an important step. And it will be a chance to get closer to your kids," Fernando encouraged him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "I just want them to be proud of me. What I'm doing now. I don't know. I'm so lost," Alejandro confessed, staring at the table. Fernando smiled. "Sometimes what we need is to take a step into the unknown. And who knows? You might discover a talent you didn't even know you had. Besides, Dona Maria seems to believe in you." Alejandro slowly nodded, the insecurity still present, but now a thread of hope began to intertwine with his doubts. He remembered Dona Maria's kind look and how she had offered him a chance, an opportunity that could change everything. "You're right. I'll think more about it. I need some time, but I want to do what's right. Not just for me, but for Juana and Ricardo," Alejandro said, feeling a bit lighter. Fernando ordered another coffee, and while they waited, Alejandro looked out the window. The sun was shining, illuminating the busy streets. He knew that life wasn't easy, but for the first time in a long time, he felt that there might be a way out. A chance to rewrite his story and maybe find a path that would lead him back to his children's arms. Alejandro took a deep breath as he entered Silicos Mediatas for the first time. The aroma of fresh coffee mixed with the soft sound of animated conversations in the workspace created a welcoming atmosphere that surprised him. He had expected a cold and impersonal office, but what he found was a vibrant space, full of life and energy. The walls were adorned with team photos, awards, and achievements, and every corner seemed to radiate a sense of community. "Hi, you must be Alejandro." A female voice interrupted his thoughts. It was Laura, one of the employees, who approached with a warm smile. "Dona Maria has told us a lot about you. We're very happy to have you here." "Thank you, Laura. It's a pleasure to be here," Alejandro replied, feeling a mix of nervousness and excitement. He knew this was a unique opportunity, but the weight of responsibility followed him. As he explored the office, Alejandro was introduced to Fernando, his longtime friend, who was already deeply ingrained in the company's culture. "Ale, you're going to love working here. The team is amazing, and everyone is willing to help. We'll show you everything, come on." Fernando guided Alejandro on a tour. introducing him to each team member and explaining the different areas of the company. Do you remember the idea I had about that app to help people reconnect with their families? Fernando asked, his eyes shining. We can develop that here. We have the resources, and with your perspective, it could be something big. Alejandro smiled shyly. He had dreamed of doing something that really made a difference in people's lives, but he wasn't sure if he was ready for it. I'm not sure I'm the right person for that, Fernando. I have a lot to learn. No one is born knowing everything, Ale. The important thing is that you're here and willing to try. Fernando encouraged him, placing a comforting hand on his friend's shoulder. And I'll be by your side every step of the way. After the tour, Alejandro sat at his new desk, surrounded by papers, colorful pens, and a computer screen that seemed to invite him to explore new ideas. He opened his email and found a message from Dona Maria, congratulating him on his decision and expressing her confidence in his potential. That message brought him a new sense of purpose. Hi, Dad. A familiar voice made him look up. It was Juana, his daughter, standing at the office door with a surprised expression. What are you doing here? Alejandro was momentarily speechless, but quickly recovered. Hi, Juana. I started working here. Dona Maria offered me this opportunity. Wow, that's cool. I didn't know you knew Dona Maria, Juana said, with a mix of pride and curiosity. And how do you feel? I'm nervous but excited. It's a new beginning, and I want you and Ricardo to know that I'm trying to change for the better, Alejandro replied, his heart pounding faster. I hope it all works out, Dad. We miss you, Juana said, with a sincerity that made Alejandro's chest tighten. He knew there was still a way to go to regain his children's trust and love, but that small moment of connection made him believe it was possible. I promise I'll try my best. I want you to be proud of me, Alejandro responded, the determination rekindling within him. Shall we meet up more often? I can take you out for a snack after work. Juana smiled. Sure, that would be great. As the day progressed, Alejandro felt more comfortable in the environment. The conversations and laughter among the team were contagious, and he realized that, despite the challenges ahead, he had people around him willing to help. By the end of the day, the hope for a brighter future pulsed in his heart, and he knew he was on the right path, not just for himself, but also for his family. Alejandro was in his new work environment, surrounded by organized desks and computers humming softly as sunlight filtered through the large windows. He observed the faces of his colleagues, all immersed in their tasks, but there was an air of camaraderie that made him feel more at ease. Next to him, Fernando, his longtime friend, was focused on a sketch he had made for the new product they were developing. Hey, Alejandro, come here and check this out, called Fernando, gesturing enthusiastically. Alejandro approached and leaned over the table, analyzing the drafts of ideas scattered around. I'm thinking of something that could really impact people. Maybe a patch that helps combat addictions. Alejandro felt a chill in his stomach. The idea intrigued him, but it also brought a series of doubts to mind. Do you really think a patch can make a difference? People are so used to seeking quick fixes. Fernando interrupted, with an encouraging smile. That's exactly it. They need something that's easy to use, discreet, and that works. And you, my friend, have the experience and passion to make this happen. Remember everything you've been through, the hardships you've faced. This could be the key. Alejandro's determination began to ignite. He remembered the nights he worried about his children and how addiction had affected lives around him. You're right, Fernando. Let's do this together. Days passed in a frantic sequence of research, group discussions, and brainstorming. Alejandro and Fernando dedicated themselves to investigating the phenomenon of addictions, talking with healthcare professionals, and collecting testimonials from people struggling with these dependencies. During these moments, Alejandro realized he wasn't just creating a product. He was, in a way, reconnecting with his own battles and the desire to offer something meaningful to the world. Look, Alejandro, I know you have a complicated history, but this is a chance to change everything. Not just for you, but for so many others who need help, Fernando said in a moment of relaxation while they drank coffee in the company's small kitchen. I just hope we can make it work, Alejandro replied, feeling a weight in his heart. If this patch can help even one person, it will be worth it. With constant support from Dona Maria, who always appeared with words of encouragement and valuable advice, the team worked tirelessly. She would enter the room, sometimes bringing homemade cookies, and other times just with a look that said she believed in them. Never underestimate the power of a good idea, Alejandro. You're on the right track, she said during one of her visits, adjusting her glasses while looking at the prototypes. After weeks of hard work, the day finally arrived to present the patch prototype. The meeting room was filled with executives and collaborators, all with expressions of anticipation. Alejandro felt his heart race as he prepared to speak. He looked at Fernando, who gave him a supportive nod. Good morning, everyone, Alejandro began, his voice firm though nervous. Today we are pleased to present a project that can truly transform lives. This is our patch, developed to help those struggling with addictions, offering an accessible and discreet solution. With his hands trembling slightly, Alejandro showed the prototype, explaining how it worked and the benefits it could bring. He saw the audience's attention grow, faces lighting up with interest. By the end of his presentation, a reverent silence filled the room. Congratulations, Alejandro. This is truly innovative, commented one of the directors, a broad smile on his face. I'm looking forward to seeing how this develops in the market. A sense of relief and joy washed over Alejandro. He had taken a significant step not just for his career but for his life. He looked at Fernando, who returned a knowing smile, and then at Dona Maria, who watched with pride. The team was united around a common goal, and the hope for a better future shone brightly. The launch of the patch was a milestone in Alejandro's life. The presentation to investors, held in an elegant company auditorium, had attracted media attention and potential partners. The room was packed with eager people, and the buzz intensified as the moment approached. Alejandro, nervous, adjusted the tie he had bought especially for the occasion. The smell of fresh coffee and the sound of animated conversations surrounded him, but he could hardly focus. His heart was pounding and he kept repeating to himself, "It's now or never." Dona Maria, always by his side, noticed the tension in the delivery rider turned businessman. With an encouraging smile, she held his arm and said, "Remember, Alejandro, you made this happen with your own hands. Believe in yourself as I believe in you." "Thank you, Dona Maria. Your words mean a lot to me," Alejandro replied, taking a deep breath and trying to calm down. He looked at the audience, where he saw Juana and Ricardo sitting in the front row, with expressions of pride on their faces. That gave him strength. When it was finally his turn, Alejandro stepped onto the stage, his gaze steady and determined. He began the presentation, detailing the operation of the anti-addiction patch, the research that had been conducted, and the positive feedback they were already receiving. This product not only helps people break free from their dependencies but also offers a fresh start, he said, gesturing with passion. The audience listened intently, and he felt like he was breaking free from the barriers of his old life as a delivery rider. After the presentation, the questions began to pour in, and Alejandro answered confidently. Each compliment and each new partnership opportunity that arose made his heart lighter. Success was tangible, and doors were unexpectedly opening. When he finally stepped off the stage, a sense of victory enveloped him like a wave. "You were amazing, Dad," Juana exclaimed, running toward him. Ricardo followed, and the three of them hugged in a moment of pure happiness. "I knew you could do it," said Ricardo, his eyes shining. I couldn't have done it without your support. You are the reason I fought so hard, Alejandro replied, emotional. He felt complete seeing the joy reflected on his children's faces. In the days that followed, Alejandro's life changed radically. Healthcare innovations began receiving investor proposals, and orders for the patch started to grow. He found himself immersed in meetings, conferences, and events, always accompanied by Dona Maria and Fernando, who had become his inseparable allies. However, while enjoying the success, a shadow from the past began to approach. Alejandro was in a meeting when he received an unexpected phone call from an unknown number. He answered, and the familiar voice on the other end of the line made his stomach turn.
Hello, Alejandro.
Remember me? It's Gustavo, your former co-worker, said the man, with a tone of voice that hinted at malice. I heard about your success, and well, I have some information that might be interesting for you. Alejandro felt a chill down his spine. The memory of Gustavo betraying him at the old company, blaming him for his dismissal, resurfaced in his mind like a nightmare. What do you want, Gustavo? He asked, trying to stay calm. Let's meet. I have something you need to hear. And don't forget, Alejandro, secrets can be very destructive, Gustavo threatened, his cold laughter echoing through the phone before he hung up. The threat hung over Alejandro like a dark cloud. He knew he needed to deal with it, but he also wanted to protect his new life and his children. The thought of having to confront the past made him anxious, but at the same time, he felt that now he had the strength and support to face any storm that might come. Dona Maria and Fernando were always close by, ready to help him. Alejandro took a deep breath, deciding that he wouldn't let the past define him. He had built something valuable, and he wouldn't allow anyone to destroy it. With determination, he decided it was time to confront Gustavo and put an end to that chapter of his life once and for all. The afternoon was sunny, and the heat made the atmosphere even more tense. Alejandro found himself in his office, a simple space, but now full of new hopes and dreams. The phone rang, interrupting his thoughts. It was Fernando, his friend and co-worker. Alejandro, are you aware of what's going on? Lucas, that guy who betrayed you at the old company, is around. He's been bad-mouthing you to some people. Fernando's voice conveyed concern. Alejandro took a deep breath and ran his hand through his hair. The memory of Lucas with his lies and betrayals made his heart race. He stood up, determination growing in his chest. I'm going to face him, Fernando. I can't let him destroy what I've built. Fernando hesitated for a moment but agreed. I'll go with you. It's not good to face this alone. When they arrived at the cafe where Lucas used to meet with people from the old company, Alejandro felt a mix of anger and nervousness. When he spotted Lucas at a table in the back, he seemed at ease, laughing and talking with a group of people. Alejandro exchanged a serious look with Fernando and headed over. Lucas, he called, his voice firm but controlled. The ex-colleague turned around, and when he saw Alejandro, his expression immediately changed. The laughter faded, and he tried to hide his surprise.
Alejandro.
What are you doing here? I'm here to talk. Alejandro didn't hesitate. You can't keep spreading lies about me. Lucas slowly stood up, trying to maintain his composure. Look, I don't know what you're talking about. Everyone knows you weren't good at what you did. Your dismissal was your fault, and now you want to blame others? Anger rose in Alejandro, but he remembered the kids and the new life he was building. He needed to stay calm. The truth is, you know how you wronged me, Lucas. Your lies cost me much more than my job. They affected my children my entire life. Fernando approached, placing a hand on Alejandro's shoulder. You have no right to talk like that, Lucas. Alejandro has rebuilt himself after everything you did. He's a new man now, and you can't keep doing this. Lucas smirked, but Alejandro didn't back down. You can't erase what you did, Lucas. But I can guarantee that if you keep attacking my honor, my family, I'll expose your lies. The tension at the table was palpable. The others present began to pay attention, and Lucas, realizing he was losing control of the situation, began to back down. You can't do that. People will believe me. No, they'll believe the truth. And the truth is, you're a coward hiding behind lies. Alejandro spoke firmly, his gaze piercing. At that moment, Dona Maria entered the cafe, her serene but powerful presence making an impact. She approached, sensing the tension. Alejandro, my dear, is everything all right here? Lucas swallowed hard. Dona Maria's influence was well known, and her presence made him hesitate. Dona Maria, it's nothing. Just a conversation between friends. Friends? She repeated with an evaluative look. No, Lucas. Alejandro is not your friend. You betrayed his trust, and I won't allow you to continue doing that. The gazes turned to Lucas, who seemed increasingly cornered. I was just kidding. It wasn't serious. Dona Maria turned to Alejandro, a supportive smile on her lips. Let's go, my dear. You've shown enough courage to face this man. Now it's time to move on and let the truth prevail. With that, Alejandro's confidence was renewed. He looked at Lucas one last time, feeling like he had finally taken control of his life. You won't hurt me anymore, Lucas. This is the last time we talk. As they walked away, with Fernando and Dona Maria by his side, Alejandro felt a wave of relief. He was free from the burden that Lucas represented, and a sense of renewal enveloped him. Later at home, when he told Juana and Ricardo what had happened, their faces lit up with pride. You were amazing, Dad, Juana exclaimed, hugging him. Yes, you showed him who you really are, Ricardo added, full of energy. Alejandro smiled, feeling closer to his children than ever. The new life they were building together seemed even more real, and the hope for a better future illuminated their hearts. However, what surprised them the most was when Dona Maria revealed that she would become an investor in healthcare innovations, ensuring a promising future for all of them. What once seemed like a dream was now about to become a concrete reality.
This was the story of Alejandro, a man who, even in the face of so much adversity, found the strength to transform his life and reconnect with what really matters. May this story inspire you to never give up, even when the challenges seem insurmountable. If you like this story and want to keep following more inspiring stories, subscribe to our channel, leave a comment and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. And for those who already follow us, don't forget to check out the comment section for more information and content that can transform your life. And to reflect, I leave you with a question. How often do we stop believing in ourselves, even when the world around us offers us a new chance? Think about it and remember, the power to change lies within you.